Good morning, everybody. Hope you're having a great Friday morning. I'm Charting Man Dan with the Chart Guys. It is Friday, September 8th, 8:30 a.m. and we're going to get ready for the market open here. Checking in on the broader market. We're going to check in on the cannabis sector, some of the major names, NVDA and Tesla, just like yesterday. I'm filling in for Lori, who we are sending our love and thoughts and prayers to as she's dealing with some life stuff, and she will be back next week. Also, big shout out to all of you in the chat room that ask and encourage others for likes. That is something that I struggle to do, but it's an astounding difference when I say, please like and subscribe, versus if I don't. So thanks for helping me with that. All right, so the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ. The key for me today is, can the bulls confirm hourly uptrends? It depends on if you're watching the futures or the ETFs. So again, one difference where we look at the S&P 500 futures versus SPY is the number of hours in a daily candle. It's a significant difference. And so you'll see things shape up on SPY on the hourly time frame that pretty much aligns with the futures 4-hour time frame. And so if we look at the S&P 500 here, I would be viewing this as essentially the low of yesterday, the overnight bounce high, and now we're trying to hold the low of yesterday and break the overnight bounce high to confirm a 4-hour uptrend, which would start our daily bounce. And then into next week, the question will be, do we set a daily lower high and confirm a daily downtrend? We're not even going to worry about that right now. We're not going to worry about the weekly lower high that's potentially shaping up. We're not going to worry about a daily lower high eventually until a bounce gets started. So all we care about is just one step at a time. We know in the back of our mind, these things are what we're going to be watching for if this happens, but it still has to happen. We've got to break the high of yesterday for us to say, okay, daily bounce underway. Now we're keeping an eye out for signs of a daily lower high to be shaping up next Monday or Tuesday. And the NASDAQ is the same setup on the 4-hour time frame. So again, low of yesterday, overnight bounce high, trying to hold the low of yesterday. And now can we break the overnight bounce high? And if we look at SPY on the hourly time frame, just a quick comparison, low of yesterday, high of yesterday, and we're going to open a bit lower. And the bulls are hoping that that confirms the hourly trend change if we can break the high of yesterday. So those resistance levels are in play first thing. QQQ is $1 away. SPY is currently about 65 cents away. So we're going to get resistance tests right out of the gate. And what the bulls want to see is not only the NASDAQ and the S&P 500 breaking, but ideally some of our other major sectors. So whether it's XLF or XLV, bulls want to see these names confirm an hourly uptrend as well if we're going to have confidence. And the financial sector was just a daily inside bar yesterday, nice and tight. And so watching for, essentially, that's one little clue, one little factor. Let's say we do get a daily bounce going, and it's the NASDAQ and the S&P 500. If XLF and XLV do not break the highs of yesterday, then we have less confidence in the bulls. The more major sectors breaking resistance together, the more confidence we have in the broader market as a whole. So that's something to keep in mind. All right, the dollar is still strong, but we know the dollar is generally inverse to the market. It's certainly not tick for tick inverse. That relationship strengthens and weakens and comes and goes, but I can look at this 4-hour setup and say, okay, well, that's the inverse setup to what the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ are trying to do. If the dollar confirms a 4-hour downtrend, that would be likely the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ confirming the 4-hour uptrend. So again, just one little piece of the puzzle that we can keep an eye on. And if we're going to make the check marks of all the things the bulls want to see, SPY breaking, NASDAQ breaking, one of the other major sectors breaking the high of yesterday, and the dollar breaking this support to confirm the 4-hour downtrend into daily consolidation or further daily consolidation. And so again, if we have that, 4 things on our checklist and we only get 2 of them, it's a lot different than if we get all 4 in terms of conviction and confidence. So this is just an example of how I approach almost every trade, because it's always a number of factors that I'm watching. Let's say I'm watching Tesla to confirm an hourly uptrend. If Tesla confirms an hourly uptrend, but the NASDAQ does not, I have way less confidence in that Tesla follow through. I have to see the NASDAQ joining as well. So it's just a couple pieces of the puzzle, and then how many of those pieces align for conviction. Checking in on the metals are trying to bounce. So gold has a little bit of a daily bounce underway right now. The question into next week for gold is, do bears confirm the daily downtrend It's a very similar question to the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ. Do the bears confirm the daily downtrend to set a weekly lower high? We know we're in a weekly downtrend on gold still, and so that's entirely possible that takes shape. Silver is trying to bounce as well. I'll be keeping an eye on silver today, just because silver is a significant drop, pretty much straight down here, of almost 9%. And so I like silver for a potential bottom fishing play where essentially we know silver must hold this low and confirm the 4-hour uptrend. The dollar must confirm the 4-hour downtrend. But in terms of risk reward, our stop is right nearby with a little bit of wiggle room under that level. And so if we go to, SLV. So SLV, 2095 would be the support level to play off of. And we would need to see the bulls break 2117 to get a daily bounce going. So that's a potential setup to be watching for today. Can the silver bulls get the bounce going? Do the dollar bears confirm the 4-hour downtrend? So cannabis. We've got a potential daily bull flag, but we did see a good bit of profit taking into the end of the day yesterday, and there was some decent volume behind it on MSOS. You can see the increasing bear volume on the pullback. That is not what bulls want to see. Bulls want to see declining bear volume on consolidation like we saw on Wednesday, whereas yesterday, increasing bear volume into that consolidation. So we can still be viewing MSOS as a tightening range, and the bears have their line in the sand, which they are defending. The high of Wednesday was wrong level. The high of Wednesday was 861. The high of yesterday was 857. And that is bears defending resistance and rejecting it pretty hard. We pulled back over 5% fairly quickly from that resistance rejection. It ended up being a rising wedge on the 5-minute time frame because each bull break lacked follow through. And so this would be the rising wedge, and it broke bear. So a short-term pattern showing a bearish pattern into a key resistance level makes the bears a bit more confident. And so now what the bulls are hoping to do is hold 806. We'll just call it 8 psychological. Bulls want to hold 8 psychological on the morning and try and get a bounce, keeping in mind that anything under 857 will just be an hourly lower high. And with where the sector is at right now and the momentum and the buzz around it, the bulls really want to have a solid day today to go into the weekend with that buzz still buzzing. But again, after that close yesterday, the bears definitely are still going to make an attempt at further daily consolidation. And the setup right now in this sector is a very simple statement. If the low of current consolidation holds, it's a daily bull flag. If the low of current consolidation breaks, the probability of a daily bull flag decreases a decent bit. If we do break support, the bulls want to see exactly what happened yesterday. We broke support of 788, and we lasted under that level for all of 5 minutes before we V-shaped. So if we do break 778, bulls want to see 778, maybe we break it by 1% straight into an hourly bounce. The definition of a flag is when there's, if you're looking for a daily bull flag, it's an hourly downtrend confirming with zero follow through. If you're looking for a weekly bull flag, it's very often a daily downtrend confirming with zero follow through, and vice versa for bear flags. If you confirm an hourly uptrend with zero follow through, it's a potential daily bear flag. So keep an eye out for that. But again, bulls would just prefer to hold that support and not break it, and to stay within that striking distance of the highs. TLRY, bulls want to hold daily EMA 12. And again, that low of yesterday, 281, is potentially in play today. What we would have to see is TLRY bulls regain an hourly uptrend. And so yesterday we had the low, high, higher low, lower high, a tightening range. And if we break 293 here, which is going to be tested first thing, that's a tightening range breaking bear and heading back down towards the low of consolidation. CGC bulls bought the dip. And CGC is actually pre-market holding on a little bit better, just in the sense that we're near the high of yesterday of 78 cents. That's in play. Whereas MSOS high of yesterday is over 5% away. And TLRY high of yesterday is also, 5% away. For CGC, it's a bit closer. And so if CGC fails 78 cents, bulls need to hold 66, the low of yesterday, and then confirm the hourly uptrend. So today's going to give us a good bit of information. Again, it's always probability. So what's the probability that these are daily bull flags? Let's just make it up and say 55%. If we break the lows of consolidation to this point, and the more individual names that break, the more convincing, then that 55% goes down to maybe 40%. If we hold these lows and close near the high of today, wherever that ends up being, into the weekend, then the daily bull flag probability will maybe go from 55 to 62%. I'm just making up those numbers, but that's how my mind works when I'm looking at trading. It's all probabilities. I live my entire life based on probabilities, and charts and technical analysis are just an aspect of that. And so that's why I don't like going near cliff edges, because if there's any probability that I could die just by a quick slip, or I get lightheaded, or whatever it is, if I'm standing on the edge of a 500-foot cliff, that's the highest probability that I'm going to die from any time, in the last however long a period of time. So I stay away from the edges so I can slip and not die. You never know. All right. Other names. Still keeping an eye on VFS. The Bears had absolute control yesterday. Again, this is the kind of play where I hesitate putting it on a live stream like this, because this is advanced traders only. Should be looking for a bounce on this name. This is for traders that have been trading for 3, 4, 6 years, that have taken this kind of trade setup before, because if you're a newer trader and looking for this kind of bounce play, it can easily spell disaster. If you don't have the discipline to use a stop loss, you could be down 20% before you get your bearings. And so, this is a kind of play where I'm keeping an eye out to see if 1760 can hold this morning, or if we break it with zero follow through. Again, just knowing that when the daily bounce takes place, it'll be an easy 40% bounce, but there's no bottom. It's free fall still. We're heading down towards 1161. There's still a lot of space above 1161. I just know that eventually the scales will tilt, because everybody was on one side of the boat bullish, and then we flipped, and now everybody's on one side of the boat bearish. The shorts will cover, the longs will go to play the bounce. We'll bounce 40% plus, but not yet. It's just something that it's what I call stalking a trade, where I'm just observing and patiently watching to see if, there's a scenario. I mean, it was the same thing with AMC yesterday. So AMC bounced yesterday, no real follow through, but there was a trade there where we double bottomed. Low of the day was 771. We double bottomed to the penny. We bounced, we held support, and then we got the bull break. And whether you buy the bull break of $8 and then we follow through for just under 5%, 4%, or whether you play off the support and maybe it's 6%, there's opportunity there. And so, again, it's just having a clear level nearby to go off of. Have to have a base of support, put our stop under it, and then see what the bulls can do. And so that would be the approach for VFS. And it's also the kind of thing where, if I've tried to play this bounce and I've failed, then I eventually say, if I take a day loser trying, then nope, I'm not trying that bounce. I made my attempt. I was wrong. And the last thing I'm going to do is keep trying this bounce, because there's a trader out there who has tried to play this bounce the last 3 days and has taken losses the last 3 days. And we can't, that's, akin to banging your head against the wall just time and time again. And I'll give it one attempt, but if I fail, I fail, and I'll prevent myself from continually trading against the trend. If I'm trading against the trend, I'll get one attempt. And if I stop out break even, if I position myself that way, then I can have another attempt. But I'm not going to take, loss, trying to trade counter trend. NVDA, we are looking at a daily higher low trying to take shape. So same thing as the S&P 500 and NASDAQ. If we confirm an hourly uptrend, the daily bounce is underway. NVDA has to do that as well. So the bulls want to break 463.44. We had a really nice gap down open right to our base of support zone. We held it. So this support zone, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4 days on the way up, bounced between 448 and 452. And so yesterday, we bounced right from that range. MARA crypto stock news here. Private exchange, blah, blah, blah. Convertible notes. I'm going to have to read those details. might be bearish. Potential dilution. Keep an eye on the price action. It does seem like it's having a little bit of an initial bearish earnings reaction, or not earnings, bearish news reaction. Yeah, MARA. Yep, that's dilution. So the price is telling me. I don't even have to read the headline. Convertible debt's in the headline. It's dilution. We'll see how much of an impact this has here. But initially, it's a bearish one. So NVDA, gap to fill 465.80 would be the next target if we break the high of yesterday. And I'm looking short on NVDA. You know, I'm looking long yesterday, but now I'm looking short next week. And ideally, I want to see the bulls bounce to, 470 plus. Ideally, getting as extended as possible. If I'm looking at a playoff support or a play for, a lower high, I want the price to get as extended. I want a straight drop to support, as oversold as possible. I want a straight shot up to resistance, as overbought as possible, the least amount of support established as possible on the way up, so that it's easier to reject. So there's a lot of space for a daily lower high on this bounce, and I am going to make an attempt at a bearish position where if we do set weekly lower highs in the S&P 500 and NASDAQ, NVDA would likely break this pattern bearish and head back down towards our base at 400. And so again, you just look at the 2-month time frame for NVDA. Will we be shocked if we see 2-month consolidation on this chart at any point from here forward? No, absolutely not. We know it's due. We know the bulls can keep control and keep all-time highs going longer than we expect. That's the part, the statement, the market can stay irrational longer than you can stay solvent. But we know eventually that's going to happen. And so there's gaps to be keeping an eye on. There's a 435.74 gap that bears are watching. So my ideal scenario would be NVDA, bounce, set a daily lower high, and then break this pattern bearish. But we'll take it one day at a time to see how this shapes up. Tesla's got a really nice base of support. Again, I'm basing my swing trade entry from back here. My stop is now under 242. Just seeing the price defend, or the bulls defend this level 1, 2, 3, pretty much 4 times now. But I do like the 4-hour time frame for Tesla's clarity here. And this is something that you will very often see. You will see a pattern on a short-term time frame, 5-minute, hourly, whatever, and it will then be, we know time frames are fractals. And so you'll see an equilibrium forming on the 5-minute, and it will break straight into an equilibrium on the 15-minute time frame. And that's where a lot of traders get faked out. And this was, this took me years in my trading career before I recognized that that happens. And so if you're in year 1, 2, 3, and you're getting this information, you are far ahead of where I was at. It took like year 5 before I figured out, oh yeah, a 5-minute uptrend can just be, or a 5-minute equilibrium bull break can just be a 15-minute lower high and continued tightening range from there. And so Tesla on the hourly was a really nice equilibrium, and it actually broke bear first thing yesterday morning with no follow through. But now it's nice and clear on the 4-hour, where we've got our high, low, lower high, higher low at 243, and I would call anything under 258 another lower high. And so if we don't break 258 today, let's say we break the high of yesterday, but don't break 258 into early next week, I'm going to be watching for the potential of a lower high and a continued tightening range for another day or two. So that's something I'm keeping an eye on. And then the direction that this tightening range breaks is going to have significant implications as to whether or not Tesla is shaping up a weekly lower high, which we know is the most likely scenario eventually, or not. So keep an eye on that 4-hour tightening range for Tesla. As far as any morning trades I'm taking today, unfortunately, I've got some prior scheduled stuff, so I'm not trading the open today, but I'll be back a bit later morning and see where we stand. Again, going to do a Cannabis Spaces with a couple guests talking about fundamentals, technicals, and all that, timelines, what we're looking at here in the short term. And that's at 2 p.m. Eastern on our Twitter. So check in for that. And now I'm reading the chat room here. We got about 5 more minutes. Appreciate you all tuning in. Aladdin's birthday. Happy birthday, Aladdin. Hey, it's Lori. Bitcoin. I guess we didn't talk Bitcoin. So Bitcoin had a bull break yesterday and gave it all back. Didn't establish support much on the way up, and just sticking bearish overall. We know we have a bearish lean on Bitcoin over the past bunch of days. The bulls have not proven anything to us. Yesterday, we finally proved something, getting over 26.2 thousand, which was a little double top here, but we gave it all back, and we didn't hold that level. So we initially broke above it and then back tested it and held it. That's a good start. All right, we're hanging on. We're keeping the gains. And then this morning, just nope, give it all back. And so we're at a part of the market right now where it's just bulls are just getting beaten down in terms of, nothing going on. Finally, a little win, and then it's just give it right back. And so that's definitely very frustrating for bulls. And so a lot of people are expecting a flush of the support at 25, 24.7, 24.7 thousand. And we'll see if that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy with so many people expecting that as the most likely scenario. Looks like MARA, this news flush, is getting a bit more significant here. Big drop. Dilution is a killer. If you are invested in anything, be well aware of the amount of cash flow that a company has and whether or not they're going to need to dilute. Because the number one enemy of an investor is dilution. It's if you own 1% of a company and they dilute, you suddenly own 0.9% of that company. And it is essential. So many people, and me too, I did this too. So many people invest in something and don't know dilution. Don't know about it. Don't understand the concept. Convertible debt and all that. It's the most important aspect. And so, I invested in whatever I invested in back in the early days, and dilution took all my money, took all my profit back as we just slow grind down forever because supply of shares keeps increasing and demand doesn't increase enough to offset that. So that's something that even these cannabis companies, we have to keep an eye on that because, again, it is a major factor in it doesn't matter how good a story is for the stock. Dilution will override that story. Learn about dilution. If you're an investor, really dig into dilution and convertible debt. Get on Google. And just a word on Google. So many people ask me questions. I love answering questions. That's why I'm here. But 40% of the questions that I get asked can be answered on Google in less than 3 minutes. And I'm seeing questions in the chat room this morning that were questions from yesterday. It's like, man, you haven't used Google yet to get that answer in 3 minutes? Take power, take initiative, take charge. Use Google. It's such a tool. The reason that I'm a full-time trader is Google. Hands down, without a doubt. It was self-directed study through searching the internet. Google is your friend. There's so many questions that I answer just hopping on Google. Is there a leveraged ETF for copper? I have no idea. I go on Google and I know in 3 minutes. Doesn't stop losses prevent losing to dilution anyways? Not necessarily. MARA, if you have a stop loss at, if you entered yesterday at 12.15 and your stop loss is under 12, you're going to take a 1% bigger hit potentially than where your stop loss was with this lower open. But stop losses can, absolutely. That's why, dilution creates bag holders, essentially. And so if you do have an exit plan, you prevent yourself from being a bag holder. This indicator is called price pivot points, or pivot HL. So go to add indicators, pivot HL. I changed my settings to 5. All right. I appreciate you all tuning in. Chart Guys Lamont is going to get the live stream going here in 5 minutes for our members. And I'll see you all at 2 p.m. Eastern for those of you interested in the cannabis sector. Have a great Friday. And do good things.